Now, if you're anything like me, you would agree that dragons are awesome. But only when they're on your side, of course. It would be cool to have your own dragon now, wouldn't it? But what would it mean for the world, the environment, and essentially everything around us? Would we survive in that world at all? Or maybe we'd even try to domesticate them somehow and turn them into pets? Well, it's time to find out and try to imagine what it would be like if dragons actually existed. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like and tell me in the comments what you would do if you had a couple of dragons for free. Now let's get into it. First of all, let's not be so logical, because of course, if dragons had existed throughout history, they'd probably have destroyed the world. Not even in the Middle Ages, but back in the times when Neanderthals were around. And if I were even more boring, I would say that humans wouldn't have evolved with dragons around. So let's avoid these unpleasant facts and just plunge into the modern day, but with dragons as part of our life. And here you may ask, do we even have a chance of survival with dragons around? But I would ask you, could dragons even survive in our world today? I mean, dragons wouldn't want to live in a place like New York City or Los Angeles. They'd need vast territories with different landscapes in order to hunt and nest. They'd probably head for a remote area like the mountains, the forests, or the deserts, far from human civilization. In order to make it work, we'd have to set up special reservations that were far from the cities, kind of like national parks, in order to give them the space and environment they need to thrive. But that's not what I'm expecting, because I want my own pet dragon to walk on a leash in the city, right? I mean, at least a small one. Can we just domesticate them? After all, people do have pet lizards or even keep crocodiles at home, and how cool would it be to have a dragon that you could train and take care of just like any other pet? Domestication wouldn't be easy though. Dragons are powerful and mostly unpredictable creatures. After all, they can breathe fire, and I wouldn't want to get roasted just because my neighbors have a dragon in their backyard. And are there even any little dragons? I mean, they all ended up as massive beasts, often reaching lengths of 30 feet while weighing several tons. Even the small ones would be huge by our standards, and keeping a creature of that size in a city would be a logistical nightmare. Plus, we'd need to think about the safety measures. Dragon-proof homes, special food, and serious leash training would need to be necessary to prevent any unexpected flights or fire-breathing incidents. But still, I'd say that it's nearly impossible to keep a dragon in the city. You need to be some kind of Daenerys to have that level of loyalty and trust from your own dragons, and even then, they would likely need to be kept outside the city in special reservations. Now on to the existential questions. To avoid being eaten by a dragon, we need to feed them. And honestly, this is not what our world is prepared for. You can complain that you buy whole bags of pet food, but trust me, you would need a whole truck to bring your dragon breakfast alone. Dragons would likely eat hundreds of pounds of meat every day, which would put a huge strain on the food supply. So let's be real here. Dragons would most likely be considered government property, managed and protected by specialized agencies. And do we even have such an amount of meat in the world to sustain dragons in these reservations? The reality is, the global meat production may not be enough to meet the dietary needs of a large dragon population, and currently, the meat industry is already under pressure to supply the demand for billions of humans. Adding dragons into the mix would require a massive increase in livestock farming. And that brings us to the food chain. You probably know that every creature on the planet is important to sustain its function. For example, those scary and seemingly useless spiders, which I don't even want to show you, are actually needed to regulate the population of insects like flies and mosquitoes and other pests. If all the spiders were to suddenly disappear from the planet, this would lead to a huge increase in the population of these insects, which would eat our food, our crops, and even more, lead to chaos. So yes, spiders do have their own special mission on the planet. But back to dragons. Just imagine what would happen when they enter the food chain and need huge amounts of livestock meat. It would throw the entire ecosystem out of balance. For example, if dragons start preying on large herbivores, this could lead to overgrowth of vegetation in some areas, while causing a decline in plant life in others due to a lack of grazing animals. This could affect other species that rely on those plants for food and shelter, and the food chain would be seriously disrupted, leading to unpredictable consequences. The demand for livestock would skyrocket, which would lead to overgrazing, deforestation, and increased greenhouse gas emissions from farming operations. And this could also result in higher food prices and scarcity for humans. So, what should we do with that? We might have to explore alternative food sources for dragons, like lab-grown meat, which is still in its early stages but shows promise for the future. And honestly, with all of these headaches, I'm not so sure anymore that having dragons is a good idea. Oh, and if you're an ardent supporter of greening the planet or worried about global warming, you might want to take a seat, because we'll be talking about what happens to the level of pollution and our ecosystem as a whole. First off, dragons flying around and breathing fire would release massive amounts of carbon emissions. Their fire breathing alone could contribute significantly to air pollution, adding to the already critical levels of greenhouse gases. And this would make global warming and climate change even worse, making it even harder for us to cut down on our carbon footprints. And then there's the issue of where the dragons would both nest and hunt. Their sheer size and strength alone could devastate forests, grasslands, and other natural habitats, threatening wildlife and biodiversity. Having such powerful predators around could seriously mess up existing ecosystems, leading to all sorts of imbalances with far-reaching consequences. Oh, and let's not forget about wildfires. Dragons breathing fire all over the place could dramatically increase the risk of uncontrollable wildfires. And these fires could destroy vast areas of land, cause significant environmental damage, displace communities, and cost countless lives and resources to combat. Just imagine the chaos of trying to put out a wildfire that's been started by a dragon. Then there's the overall environmental impact. Dragons would need vast territories to roam and hunt, which could lead to habitat destruction on a massive scale. Their presence could disrupt local climates, affect rainfall patterns, and even alter the geography of certain areas over time. The balance of nature would be thrown off, which would cause ripple effects all throughout the ecosystem. Now we'll be talking about all of this in more detail and finally assume whether we could actually survive on one planet with dragons. But before we continue, don't forget to check if you're subscribed. And if you haven't yet, now is the perfect time. Before we finish, jump into the comments section and tell me, which dragon would you like to have? If it were possible, of course. And with that, let's move on to the most interesting part. It's not that obvious, but for example, dragons' massive bodies and constant flights would lead to serious soil erosion, changing the landscape and making it harder for the plants to grow. Then there's the weather. The heat from their fire would create hotspots affecting the microclimate. These changes would add up over time. Even a couple of dragons in each state would cause temperatures to rise by several degrees. And what would that mean for all of us? Well, dragons don't even need to attack us to turn our lives into hell. Increased temperatures would lead to more heat waves, making it not only uncomfortable, but even dangerous to be outside. Higher temperatures also strain our energy systems as we rely more and more on air conditioning. But the most dangerous thing for us would actually be the rain. Yeah, that's right. As dragons fly around and breathe fire, this would lead to acid rain. And this rain would be as dangerous as radiation. I mean, first off, it would damage all the crops, making it harder for farmers to grow the food we need. Exposure to acid rain could lead to a bunch of health problems for all of us. It can irritate our skin and our eyes, cause breathing issues like asthma and bronchitis, and even lead to serious conditions like lung disease. Since the harmful chemicals in acid rain contaminate our drinking water, that would lead to stomach problems and other serious health issues. In the long run, living with constant acid rain would be devastating. People would always be breathing in polluted air, which would lead to chronic respiratory diseases and even more hospital visits. Eating food and drinking water contaminated by acid rain would cause long-term health problems as well, like stomach diseases, kidney damage, and possibly even cancer. Over time, constantly dealing with these pollutants could weaken our immune systems, making us even more likely to get sick from other things too. All of these health issues could lead to more death, and constant exposure to acid rain could shorten lifespans and hurt overall public health. People would struggle with higher healthcare costs and less productivity because they would be too sick to work. But you know, all of these challenges that we found out today, scientists would have known long before us. And considering all of them, we'd have two options about dragons. First, we could try to adapt to living with dragons and overcome the challenges, which would require massive changes and innovations. We'd have to develop advanced technologies to neutralize the harmful effects of dragon fire and acid rain, and that would include creating new firefighting methods, designing buildings and infrastructure to withstand a dragon attack, and developing pollution control technology to clean the air and the water. Also, scientists would work on breeding and genetic programs to manage dragon populations better. Education and training programs would be essential to teach people how to coexist with dragons safely. This involves new laws and regulations, massive public awareness campaigns, and community preparedness plans to handle dragon-related emergencies. But on the flip side, the second option, which is probably the most realistic, is to eliminate dragons to protect our planet in the long run. If the environmental and health impacts of living with dragons are just too devastating, we may well decide that the only way to save the planet is just to get rid of them. Governments would likely lead these initiatives with support from international coalitions to ensure a global approach. This process is highly dangerous and ethically challenging, as it involves the extinction of a potentially sentient species. But in the end, whether we choose to adapt to living with dragons or decide to eliminate them, the challenges are huge. The impact on our planet and society is massive, requiring unprecedented levels of innovation, cooperation, and even sacrifice. And if you like this video, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on this video to find out what if superheroes were actually real. I mean, seriously, don't waste a moment. Click on it right now because I'm already there and I'm waiting for you.